Hey there, welcome to episode 48 of the Cafe Genius Impresarios audio program. I am your host, Dan Hugo. Episode 48 is being recorded on the morning of January 26th. That's Friday, 2024. Normally try to record these on Thursday. Lots of stuff going on. But today, at long last, the post episode of the Fun Economy F1un. Fun. The Fun Economy post. That means this is the after, although from all indications, the aftermath of the first ever Formula One race held in Las Vegas in November of 2023 will have a lasting impact on small business. It's not all of it good, as well as big business. And the next race is already on the calendar. I believe it is 23 November. That's not important right now, unless you're a small business owner and you're worried about these sorts of things. Then start saving your money now because you're going to lose it. That's the take home. The post-game show, we're going to run down some of the aftermath. The Formula One race was good for some, not for everybody. It's an onion with many layers, as we will continue to find out over time. So this episode is sort of a line in the sand. There will certainly be more to talk about, which will ideally happen through the year as we grow into more examination of not only our economy in general, but our ecosystem of entrepreneurs and innovators, the impresarios that make this stuff happen. Some of them own small retail businesses that are impacted by these things. If you're an entrepreneur and you are trying to have a small business be successful in our economy, in our ecosystem, you may face challenges that don't even get on the radar, and that is something to think about. So let's go to the links. There are a lot of links. There were a lot of links. I have pared it down significantly for two reasons. One, some of them are repeats or they're sort of incremental. The Flamingo Bridge, for example, has been an ongoing story. So a lot of headlines as that eventually reached the conclusion, the bridge will come down. So that's one example. As well, the current publication of these audio program episodes through the Spotify for Podcasters portal limits the amount of text that can be placed in the description. So using the podcast audio program description that is published via RSS is not ideal by any means. I've mentioned this before. So hosting the original description, that means links and other related information and any ongoing engagement with our audio programming, is something we really need to self-host as a primary publication and use the Spotify and other outlets as secondary. You should be able to find our shows, but you should always be able to go back to the origin, the original posting point, the original publisher, that's us, to get the full set of links, any additional content later, and so on. So I keep talking about this on all of my programs that this is coming. It's just that the many hats. If you are a small business or startup person, you must wear all of the hats. So coming soon. Each of the descriptions will include a link back to a primary content page on our website, cafegenius.org. And we will take ownership of the actual description and other related content. And when it appears in RSS feeds to other sites such as Spotify, Amazon Music, etc., those will all point back to the sort of origin, the authoritative source page. So look for that. In the meantime, the links. So the usual, my host Buy Me a Coffee page, that's me. If we have guests in the future, and I do hope we will, with our focus on small business, not merely on the tech scene, but small business, entrepreneurs, people who are trying to start or operate their business, their idea, be innovative, etc. Hopefully we will also be able to offer these, what we could call plugs, right? If they have a business website or something we can point to. But your host, that's me. I have a buymeacoffee.com profile page. That's /Dan Hugo, DANHUGO. I also have a coffee.com page, ko-fi.com /Dan Hugo, Hugo. You do not have to buy me a coffee, but if you are curious to know what my other projects are, including audio programming and more, I've been posting on my buymeacoffee.com page profile, which I am not a fan of. It is not a great, it's not a great tool for publishing, but hey, it's a well-known tool for getting word out, occasional fundraising. Las Vegas is a city that is powered by gratuities. I can't say that I'm a fan of the tipping economy in general, but there is no advertising or monetization of any of my audio programs at this point. They are long tail. That means the benefit will come in other ways. You are under no obligation to actually buy me a coffee or spend any money, but if you do want to, money will go towards actual coffee. Already has. My last purchase was some Lavazza espresso beans. 1 kilogram, 2.2 pounds. On with the links. So the Las Vegas Grand Prix Formula One was named the most successful Formula One race for 2023. So there's an article here. A lot of these articles are pointing to our local TV news, KTNV. Not a lot, but I mean, a lot of my links in general, more than are listed as of today on this episode. KTNV has been publishing some reporting on this topic. So that's good for people to find out that only that news outlet is covering this much. I have not done a deep dive to compare, but that is on the table. And I'll get to that at the end of this episode. So yeah, name most successful. That is based on Formula One data, not city data. So it has been most successful for Formula One. They list 2.7 billion, B with a B, 2.7 billion viewers globally. So they're concerned, Formula One is concerned, and rightfully so. They're concerned with their business and how it did. So it took in a lot of revenue and it had a lot of viewers, so a lot of interest, a lot of excitement, a lot of energy, and that keeps their brand energized on the global stage. So that's all good for them. So Las Vegas as a platform for the Formula One brand, race, fans, marketing, advertising, ticket revenue, merch, all that. Good for them. So that's the focus of that article. The casinos and resorts have allegedly done very well. They were able to adjust their room prices. And they were offering packages for visitors. I saw some numbers that were pretty ridiculous. Get the Formula One VIP package for hundreds or thousands of dollars and just food and drink. Not to mention room rates had been elevated because of demand, and then they started falling because of demand. But anyway, the resorts probably did fine. They report to the LVCVA, the Las Vegas Convention and Visitors Authority, which the LVCVA pays attention to things like tourism and resort, gaming revenue, et cetera, et cetera. So reporting on those says the resorts did okay. However, furious Las Vegas business owners confront Formula One bosses to demand compensation after losing $20 million when race construction prevented customers from reaching their shops. This is a Daily Mail article, and that's the reason I'm publishing this version, because this has come up elsewhere, but it is a story that's making the rounds. It's not merely a local media issue, and our local media doesn't always cover these things. This article focuses more on the Koval Flamingo Bridge, the footbridge that was added for the sake of the race, and it had traffic flow implications for the businesses around there, and so there's been losses of revenue just because people don't take the usual path. This is a general issue as far as environmental impact of an event like this. The environment, meaning how people move, how traffic flows, obviously any other resources that are consumed in a different way. If people are drinking more water because they were watching the race, that would be also something to think about. So an EIR, an environmental impact report, is something that is usually done for these things. We'll have to dig that up at some point. And covering that sort of thing will be outside of the bounds of a weekly audio program. Ongoing coverage of these things to make it more visible makes more sense. But anyway, this article focuses more on that particular loss, but what is not covered so clearly is the large scale disparity between small business revenue, impact on revenue, and outcomes as a result of the pre and post, not to mention during, Formula One race. That means construction, that means impact on tourism in general. There's an article that I have not included here today, but it compares general revenue from between the Strip and the downtown Vegas area. Local folks like myself would tend to go downtown more than to the Strip, but people tended to stay away from going out in general. I, in fact, was out of the area. I had traveled to visit my family in Phoenix, Arizona. So if you are local, you probably stayed in. So the downtown businesses, the people on Fremont, the people in the Arts District, saw an impact in their business, while the Strip was benefiting from the tourism, allegedly. Unfortunately, the LVCVA research tab on their website is not reporting any numbers, so I'll say it's down as I'm recording this. There were allegedly 300,000 people in for that time period, that week of November, allegedly. It is easy to attribute all 300,000 to Formula One race fans in for the race itself. As an opaque number, that's interesting, but not totally informative. So that is yet more research possibility right there. Who was really here for the race? And more importantly, and more difficult to determine, who did not come because of the race? Headline, F1 disaster. A Las Vegas locals say elite race was no economic boost. And this is from November of 2023. So the furious business owners, that's from like yesterday. No, I'm sorry, earlier in the week. And the economic boost problem for small businesses was reported on, I believe it was November 20th. So we have from the time of the race and really before, right up until today even, businesses are not always clapping their hands, stomping their feet, and enjoying the money they're counting because they lost sometimes a lot. So next, F1 and LVCVA officials address the Las Vegas business owners' concerns over big losses. That's another, that's in a 3LV. That's another local news channel. So I have that headline. Actually, I have the article. Just wanted to do a quick quote from that. So that was a meeting. Yes, that was a meeting between at least two of the business owners impacted by the bridge, Batista's Hole. Oh, I'm sorry, Hole in the Wall, Hole in the Wall restaurant. Line breaks, and I think there was another. There were at least two businesses that were sort of stepping up, and they only mentioned Batista's Hole in the Wall. They met with Betsy Fretwell, the COO of the Las Vegas Grand Prix. That's nice that they have their own branded business now. Steve Hill from the LVCVA was there as the president, CEO, and he made sure this meeting happened. So that's nice. Randy Markin from Batista's Hole in the Wall said that. So he was happy that happened. Now, meetings are great. It's outcomes that matter. So they're going over the bridge. Now, I thought the interesting thing was, there's one quote, I mean, every small business that we are friends with around here was affected by that. Ferraro said, where's Ferraro? Oh yeah, that was the second business. I'm sorry. So the next paragraph, Ferraro's Ristorante, Mimo Ferraro. So they lost $2 million. Sorry, I'm jumping around this article, but it's generally interesting. I've read a lot of things, so to refresh on this one. So the Hole in the Wall, $5 million loss. The Ferraro's Ristorante, $2 million loss. They were an eighth of a mile from the Formula One track. It includes inclusion with the city, inviting them to be a part of it. So that was Ferraro about friends around that were being affected. Generally, that's the problem that I will get to in this episode, is who was part of the conversation during planning and assessment afterwards. Clark County Commissioner Tick Segerblom, never heard of this person. I should have. Says these two people, Ferraro and Markin, so the Ristorante and the Hole in the Wall, are two of many stakeholders who should be at the table when this year's race is reviewed. And that's one reason I'm not necessarily deep diving into this race at this time, because they have yet to really conduct a true evaluation. So I believe it's a he, chairman, Segerblom, is suggesting that they should be at the table. Well, of course, that shouldn't even be a question. When you assess the impact of an event like this, you should have the people who are impacted as part of your data that you're looking at. So if you leave people out, you're getting you're getting the survivor bias, and that is a term used unironically perhaps, but it is the actual term. We should know who is at the table and who is not, and that should be part of the evaluation. Anyway, that was not a quote. This is a quote from Segerblom. We are very serious about going back and reevaluate what happened and try to figure out ways we can tweak the system or even dramatically change the system. Those are great words. It sounds like something's going to happen. Because in a lot of ways, it was a great event for us. And that the us is, of course, left to interpretation. But in a lot of ways, we paid the price for it and learned the hard way. So we and us are used very casually here. That's something to always keep in mind when you're talking to politicians. And then Steve Hill from the LVCVA released a statement after this meeting to News 3. It says, this is the entire quote. You can read this on the article, so I've linked to it. The Las Vegas Grand Prix inaugural race exceeded our expectations in both economic benefit to the state and the international exposure the event brought to our city. This is a side note. Las Vegas is now, previously not, but is now, as a result of this, well known around the world. We do recognize some were disproportionately impacted by the construction required to put on an event of this magnitude. Now, that's sort of simplifying things. The construction itself, the bridge in particular, is the topic of this meeting that they were in, but there are a lot of moving parts here to consider. But let's keep it simple, I suppose. We learned a lot going through the first year, and we have started discussions with businesses near the Flamingo-Koval intersection to understand their concerns. So that is a very highly focused, and I would argue limited, population to talk to. We will continue to work with them to find potential solutions and create opportunities so that future races are better for all involved. That's a very political statement, very optimistic, very inclusive, very attentive. So don't believe any of it. He hopes to see Markin from the Hole in the Wall hopes to see progress in a matter of days, and he hopes their business will be made whole. I don't know how that will happen, if they're going to be compensated with the millions of dollars allegedly lost. They're going to look at some numbers, and the F1 will get back to us. So we'll see what that actually means. There is room for improvement. I will leave it there because I'm not sitting at the table. I'm a small business that was not impacted so much by this. Anyway, let's get back to the links. Las Vegas Grand Prix Flamingo Road temporary bridge to be removed ahead of the big game. So that is an article from this week. So the Flamingo-Koval Bridge, or that area, the Flamingo pedestrian bridge is being taken down. It was temporary for the race, but it was being left up. So temporary, also open to we, us, temporary. These are words that are used casually, apparently. So it will be removed ahead of the big game. That's before the Super Bowl. I would be curious to know if the Super Bowl is the motivating factor. If someone said, "Oh, it will make it easier in some way to Super Bowl," and so the bridge was more easily reconsidered. So that would be an interesting conversation that no one would admit to, is whether small business concerns versus Super Bowl concerns were the driving decision-making force of the bridge decision to remove the bridge. I don't mean to sound conspiratorial here, but anyone who is viewing situations and scenarios like this through the lens of the small business owner, anyone who's ever operated a small business and had to sort of watch on the sidelines as dramatic impact to their business out of their control is being affecting their business, is being actuated, is being set in motion, by people with a different motive. And I have a couple of examples from my days in Silicon Valley, which I can touch on. I'll do that at the end. So the bridge is to be removed and everybody's happy. Yay. And I've added a link that's not necessarily about Formula One, but to give a flavor for what I've been suggesting here. Preview Las Vegas, which is being put on by the Vegas Chamber of Las Vegas Chamber of Commerce, 501c6 Business League, advocating for its members. Preview Las Vegas to provide economic forecast for Southern Nevada businesses. Now, if you read that article, and that's a KTNB article, I will visit that now. Preview Las Vegas. Southern Nevada business owners have the opportunity to get a front row seat to what's expected to impact Las Vegas in 2024 and beyond. That sounds very wide-reaching, and it sounds like, hey, I should go to that. I'm a small business owner. It kicks off Wednesday, so that's already taken place. Today's Friday. Fontainebleau, brand new Miami-themed, Miami-style Fontainebleau, Las Vegas, recently opened, attracting thousands of attendees. And it's expected to put a spotlight on how Las Vegas went from a sports desert to a sports capital. Oh, wait, we're focusing on professional sports, which is one of the pillars of the fun economy. This event has been called, there's a quote from Mary Beth Sewell, the president, CEO of Vegas Chamber. This event has been called the Super Bowl of economic forecasting events. Whoever wrote this article misused the quotes, but Super Bowl of economic forecasting events is also quoted, I guess, within the quotes. That's broken quoting. They're encouraging all small business owners to attend. Now, it should be known, and they're learning about the A's relocation plans and how that went back. So it's really focused on professional sports. It is important to know that anytime you have a 501c6 business league, it's a membership organization, they advocate first for their members. So if you are a member, and if you're also, they have tiered membership. So if you are a member that pays a higher tier of membership, you are the concern of the business league. So the business league is not automatically advocating for the success of all businesses. They are absolutely, by design, and this is fine, it's not a problem, but they are by design advocating for their member companies. So while economic forecasting for business in general is interesting, they really pay attention to their membership. So it's something to be focused on. As well, they are focusing on baseball, Formula One. They're going to discuss the economic footprint at this meeting, this presentation. They'll learn how Southern Nevada business can still have a seat at the table for the Super Bowl this year. So that's about it. They're focusing on professional sports. They're going to address the future of infrastructure in Las Vegas as the population grows. So that's sort of that's interesting. That's a little bit more blue sky, perhaps. They're talking about Interstate 15, high-speed rail. Those are longer looking. The tickets are $125. So if you had lost $2 million or $5 million thanks to that bridge that you had no say in, now they just want a little bit more of your money to tell you how those professional sporting events and the people that come here will still not visit your businesses. So do I sound cynical? I hope so. Back to the links. So that's at the end of the links. And then I have a link to the LVCVA research section. The LVCVA, the Convention and Visitors Authority, publishes data monthly, and I believe they break it down weekly. I say I believe because, let me check one more time. As I'm recording this, the website is not displaying data for Las Vegas. You can get data for Laughlin and Mesquite. So let me see. These are, I'll have to see if they do weekly. They do monthly data. So I want to say that the November data, when I looked at it a couple weeks ago, and there was one article, I want to say it was in the Nevada Current, but it was still, like the data had just been published somewhere, but it wasn't actually in their tourism tracker data. So I was going to wait a little bit, and now it's not even visible. There's zero data visible, so that's annoying. But if you visit the tourism tracker, you would be able to get data from November. And so somewhere in there, they suggest that 300,000 additional visitors to the Vegas economy, the fun economy, which they attribute to the Formula One race. I don't know how opaque those numbers are. We'd have to actually look at signature event data, or more likely and less likely to be visible, but more likely useful would be the number of people who said, I am here for the race. And it would be really interesting to know the number of people who said, I am not going to Las Vegas because of the race. So these are the sorts of data that we could capture if we wanted to know. I don't know if they really want to know. So yeah, I have a link to the research tab. Hopefully those numbers will be more available. And again, this audio program is really more of a summary. Some ongoing visibility for things like this really needs to be on the table if this is to be a region of entrepreneurial success, which is something that our present governor ran on. Nevada should be the most entrepreneurial state in the nation, the country. A nation is a different thing in the country. And if that is to be true, we should be able to know that that is happening. And actions that have direct negative impact on small business doesn't help that. And not even knowing the degree of that negative impact is a problem. Focusing on the big numbers, not the little numbers, perhaps something to think about. And that's why impresarios are the people that we like to think about, because small business is critical. We should act like it. So F1 was great for some. The Formula One organization, LVCVA, assessed the overall success of the event, and they say it was the best. I already said that. Headline, 2.7 billion viewers around the world, about 300,000 additional visitors, roughly. Now, if you zoom in on that, those people disproportionately stayed on the Strip. Local people, such as myself, maybe you as well, did not go out, did not go and spend money or visit local businesses during the Formula One race. I know myself, I tended to avoid the construction and the traffic and the just the general hassle. And then, as I said, I was out of town. I figured, hey, I don't want to be around here. It's going to be crazy. So I left the town, I left the city, got out of town, as the saying goes. Local businesses lost money during construction, during the race itself, and for some time after. As we've already said, this one area that's been zoomed in on. Local media has taken up this particular story, I want to say, because, first of all, these people have been making noise in a good way. Like, hey, this had a bad impact on my business. If nobody hears that, then nobody knows, and businesses may fail silently or suffer long-term consequences of this loss of money. So, and it is also important to know that the race itself took, a couple days with the different pre-event racing test laps. I'm not a Formula One person, but whatever qualifying or whatever they were doing, I think it was qualifying laps, right? With the incident with the track obstructions and other issues and drama and whatnot, and people getting kicked out of the VIP section and all the drama of the actual race itself. But you got to remember, construction was taking place for quite a while before that. So were people able to get to small businesses anywhere around construction? Were people tending to say, I was going to go to Vegas this weekend, but I hear the trees are gone at the Bellagio. So the impact on general visitation might be an interesting thing to look at, and how it impacted small business in general. Because guess what? Again, if you're a local, I know explicitly people were avoiding traffic, avoiding potential delay and frustration and so on. So the actual impact may be slightly larger than one intersection that the LVCVA is looking at. So winning isn't everything. Unfortunately, a lot of people didn't even enjoy that. Some small businesses may still be suffering, and the lasting impact, which makes, maybe in a larger area than the one that people are focusing on the Flamingo Bridge, these changes in traffic flow, during, before, whether it's cars or people, people on foot or walking in general, foot, wheel, etc. The substantial changes in the revenue may be long-lasting, whether the bridge comes down or not. Because once you've lost a bunch of money, you may not be able to market as well. You may not be able to maintain the low prices. You may have to raise your prices a little bit to make up for the losses. And then people may not be purchasing as much. And then you put yourself at risk if you do lower your prices and so on. Luckily, interest rates have been very low and there's been no inflation. So people have been, oh, wait, no? Oh well. So access to capital to bridge the losses during the event may be more expensive with higher interest rates. May be more difficult to get the money, which I'll probably touch on again in the next section here. So what went wrong? there is a focus on opaque numbers from big business. So the Formula One announcements and pronouncements about their success get the headlines. The local big resorts did great. They brought in zillions of dollars, and that's cool and exciting, and the fun economy wins again. And that's what the LVCVA focuses on. So if you're a small business, you may fall under the radar. I don't know which businesses report. That's something for the general long-term future, looking at our ecosystem. What is the LVCVA really reporting on? Visitors is one number. Well, it's a series of numbers, but people visiting and why they're visiting and their origin, right? If they're visiting from New York or Chicago or other countries, those are interesting. When they come here, are they attending a trade show? Are they attending an entertainment event, a sporting event? Are they also engaging in local economy activities? Are they spending money to eat, drink, travel around, to commute between attractions? That would be good to know. Because we don't know who is spending money where. You can look at opaque numbers and say, okay, there were 300,000 people here and the casinos and resorts on the Strip made money. Therefore, the 300,000 people spent more money at those events. Great. Do other businesses impacted by, that means they're in some sort of radius around an event like this, are they impacted in a positive or negative way? So before, during, and after the event, did their week over week, month over month, year over year, et cetera, whatever data they have, do they have a measurable increase or decrease that you could actually look at? And is any of that data being captured in the LVCVA assessment of whether a particular event was good? As we heard when I read that quote, it's good for the state. Okay, that's wonderful. But if you crush businesses and you don't involve them in the planning, or you don't necessarily have them at the table, so to speak, and months of time have gone by. The race was in November. Was it November 11th or 12th? It was early November. So we're talking 2 months, 2 months and 2 weeks. So 10 weeks. If you are a small business and you have taken a substantial financial hit thanks to this event, and maybe it started before November for the race itself, maybe you got 3 months worth of negative revenue or negative profits, perhaps. No, you didn't make money. Maybe you actually lost money, but maybe you just didn't make money. Could vary. A couple of months is expensive. You don't have millions of dollars socked away in the bank to cover these. You don't have a cushion, as they like to say. Economic shocks like this can have long-term effects, and it could be a bummer. So if the LVCVA is not accounting for those things, and I suggest they are not, which I'll get to in a moment, well, too bad. So construction before, during, and after, the logistical and operational plans for the Formula One event, and this applies as well to the Super Bowl, which is yet more construction and changes. The, what do they call it? The Tropicana, continuing construction on the Tropicana I-15 exchange, the freeway interchange there. So getting on and off the bridge, over the freeway, more construction. So that will continue to impact all manner of things. These are event focused. So the Tropicana, I believe, was going to be related to some sort of stadium construction anyway. So whether that's directly related to the A's and the replacement of the Tropicana resort with the maybe happening A's baseball stadium kind of ties into that, or maybe they're completely separate but coincidental. These are event-focused construction projects generally, but there's always construction happening in Las Vegas. So long and short-term planning for anything from major road closures and detours due to construction projects of various kinds. These should all be assessed in a public way for long and short-term impact on local business, small business especially. So they look at overall impact on the fun economy. That's easy and fun and gets headlines. But if you don't have a real environmental impact report that accounts for potential obstruction and damage to smaller businesses, and I have an example of that I can get into if you like, I'll do it right now. They're left out. When I was in the San Francisco Bay Area, I was the managing director of a owners association. So 501c6 business league for mobile food vendors, food trucks. So in order to change the zoning regulations for having events in parking lots or on the street, certain laws in the state of California came into play. Other places, especially on private property, would be left to zoning regulations for a particular locality. So in the city of Sunnyvale, where I was actually a resident, the person in charge of the proposed legislative changes, the rules for how many events, how many participants at an event, and so on, changing those rules could and did, in fact, benefit from an assessment of environmental impact by those events on the surrounding areas. That is to say, for example, if you had a food truck event, a lunch, could you have 2 food trucks? Could you have 3 food trucks? Could you have 4 food trucks? Well, if you have a lot of food trucks in a parking lot in a business area, so an area zoned for business, office parks, for example, you may introduce additional traffic flow that's not normal through the lunch hour, the lunch 2 hours perhaps. So the impact on the environment would be increased traffic, increased risk of traffic obstruction in the event of a fire or other emergency. So you have to look at traffic flow in and out of a particular area. You have to look at impact on the parking lot and whether that impacts businesses, and so on and so on. So I can say, because I was directly involved, conversational, in person, one-on-one, with the person who was doing that study for the city of Sunnyvale, Marianne Z. I won't say her whole last name, but if you remember back in that time, she was a food truck fan, so she took a proactive interest. She was a fan, but remarkably unbiased, I'll say. She took some serious hard looks and went to events and took real measurements and so on. So she was looking out for not only the small mobile business, but the larger and more stuck in the ground brick and mortar businesses, and the responsibility of she and the zoning department of the city of Sunnyvale at environmental impact. Again, traffic flow, public safety, business concerns, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So there was a lot of consideration that went into that. Now, Sunnyvale was a population of, I want to say about 120,000 at the time. Number of businesses impacted, not very large. Any particular event would have 100, 200. You want to have about 100 people per food truck, so maybe as many as 400. I think they limited it to 3. But the fact is, you can do the work, you can do some analysis, and you can see whether putting up a bridge on Flamingo or tearing down an entire freeway interchange, the Tropicana project, will have some recoverable impact on small business and what you can do to mitigate the damages. In another example, also in Sunnyvale, there was the downtown Sunnyvale improvement. It was a, what do you call it? A business improvement district. It was considered blighted. There was construction projects that didn't finish. The mall downtown failed, so it was boarded up. This was pre-pandemic. So as it happens, there was a Murphy Avenue, one of those. The small businesses on the street were tucked away, hidden from view. If you were not coming downtown to go to the mall or to visit in general, you may not get the normal foot traffic, so not unlike the Flamingo Bridge scenario. Target, the infamous brand, Target, the store, had just, maybe the year before, I think, they had just finished the construction of a pretty nice Target installation. It was a nice store, substantial parking, brand new, shiny. I used to walk over there frequently, so I could walk through downtown Sunnyvale and go to Target. So the city, someone in the city, had an opportunity to get some free or discounted billboard advertising space. So along the infamous 101 freeway, they were able to advertise for something in Sunnyvale. They advertised for Target, a national brand with plenty of money, and made no mention whatsoever of the many small businesses that were on Murphy Avenue. We're talking bars, restaurants, bookstores, clothing stores, the usual mix, a hair salon, a billiards place. You can play pool downstairs. I had been there many times. Fun spot. So a host of various retail establishments that were left hoping that people would wander by. And at some point, they tore up the entire street for some sewer replacements, and that didn't help anybody. So a host of things that were aimed not explicitly, not on purpose, perhaps. Like, I don't think people are looking to destroy those businesses, but they were not really considered. What do you do when you're going to hide these businesses away behind a mall that's been shut down in literally a blighted area, part of the improvement district? What can we do about this? And the town and country mall that was also right next door was essentially dead, only a couple of businesses. So if you were to drive by from the major street, Matilda Avenue, which is a huge street. I believe at the time it was like 50,000 cars per day or something crazy. If no one knew that downtown was still functioning, still had legitimate, viable, attractive businesses, if they only saw that it was a blighted area and the only advertising that was done was for Target, which was, yes, walking distance, but not part of a destination plan. If you're going there to go to Target, you're leaving people out. So I suspect that similar thinking is happening when we look at small businesses and the impact on those small businesses by these large sweeping city scale undertakings, whether they're city or county. And obviously the Formula One racetrack itself was, I believe, entirely in Clark County, not in the city of Las Vegas. Either way, though, you need to think about these things. You can't just say, oh, that's right, we forgot. Cleaning up after also, that was like a 6-week project to put everything back, everything in quotes. But small business. And so as far as some might be concerned, oh, we're done. We'll put it back where it is. And then we got to get ready to tear everything up again for the Super Bowl coming up in February. Small businesses, especially in this higher interest rate economic scenario, do not necessarily have the cushion to handle these shocks, as I mentioned. So they have been dealing with trying to recover with a lot of obstacles, financial and otherwise, whether it's a bridge, whether it's change in traffic flow, or whether it's the notion perhaps that, that area with the construction has been changed and maybe it's not still on the radar, right? Like, oh, that's right. That whole area was torn up, may not visit as often, etc. So the lasting impact on small businesses that don't have the resources to do the marketing or to do the economic recovery or to literally put things back the way they were may just have to deal with it. They can go sit at a table with some executives and so on. So the Formula One race is coming up in November 23rd, 2024. So the clock is already ticking. So they're still trying to figure out what to do about the race in 2023, and the 2024 race is already on the calendar. So there's a timeline, and it is moving. So my theory is my assessment based on in some part on my experiences in Sunnyvale. I was pretty involved in that in a smaller city such as that, and we had our local media project, Radio Sunnyvale. Here's what I have to say. The LVGEA, the Las Vegas Global Economic Alliance, is a public-private entity that is essentially looking at economic drivers for Southern Nevada. In Washoe County, you'd go to EDAWN, but LVGEA, they recently hired a senior VP of entrepreneurial community development or something like that. Their stated goal with that role is tech startups, is hiring software engineers, bringing in venture money, number of exits, number of unicorns, etc. They're very, very focused on the next Silicon Valley thing, which we've talked about and we will continue to talk about. So that focus is on tech entrepreneurs. The LVGEA itself is obviously looking at large scale, so lower resolution, bigger money, bigger companies, small businesses sort of aggregated into just some numbers. So economic impact of events like Formula One are probably, I have not talked to Tina or any of her staff specifically, although I would like to. They're focused on aggregate numbers, summaries, bottom lines. So they're looking at, we had a lot of visitors and we had a lot of money. They don't really focus on the visitors, I think, other than great. It was a positive. The LVCVA, Convention and Visitors Authority, does look at tourism visitor counts. They look at professional sports. They look at resort benefits. marketing. They look at the branding. LVCVA does the Vegas Strong, what happens in Vegas from years ago, only in Vegas, etc. They don't do Vegas. Vegas Strong is different, but they are responsible for promoting the marketing of the city for tourism, convention visitors authority. So they are looking at marketing upside for an event. Hey, look, a lot of people know about Vegas now thanks to the Formula One race, because before that, you would say, hey, I'm from Vegas. And they're like, don't New Mexico? And you're like, no, the other one. So luckily we had the Formula One race, and now people actually know about Las Vegas. That's good. So their focus is on tourism and essentially the strip, the big resorts, the big events, the professional sports, essentially the fun economy, which is a pending trademark term by the UNLV Department of Economic Development. Bo Bernard, even though I think he's a big dork, is essentially correct. There is a fun economy here. You can't doubt that. But if that is the only thing that matters, then if you're in a small business that is negatively impacted by the fun economy, you better make a lot of noise because you're not getting the headlines. Those are the small businesses. So we don't even know who they are. Does the Vegas Chamber represent all small businesses? No. Do small businesses that pay the membership fees get represented? Yes. So if you are a small business and you don't have your membership fee, maybe you lost it thanks to the bridge or to construction or to a reduction in revenue due to a reduction in foot traffic, etc., you may not necessarily be represented by a 501c6 business league such as the Vegas Chamber. You may be. I'm not speaking for them. So I'm alleging as a membership organization that the members get the attention. And that's the nature of the beast. When we had our Owners Association for Food Trucks, of course, the members were the people the owners of these mobile kitchens were the people we were talking to. Other businesses, other mobile vendors who are not members would benefit in some cases, but they're not necessarily expressing their opinions because they're not members of the organization. So I'm not bashing the chamber for that mode of operation, but it is something to think about, that they are representing a subset of small business. So it's completely fair, but it should be clear that they're focused on the fun economy, not necessarily focused on your economy. So it's just something to think about. So I believe there are disconnections at the top, from the top, that look at the big numbers, at the aggregates. They look at tourism and casino and resort benefits. They look at big events, professional sports, especially now as the new shiny thing. Gaming revenue is substantial. Entertainment venues, residencies of entertainers make the news. Restaurant openings, bar openings also get attention. I think it drops off significantly from there. So LVGEA focused on tech startups, LVCVA focused on tourism, fun economy, and essentially the strip mostly. UNLV, Department of Economic Development, focused on the fun economy. Small businesses are somewhere. Hopefully they appear on the radar somewhere, sometime. Yeah. Maybe somebody should focus on that. So what next? Small businesses must be heard. Are you getting that impression? And not only because Formula One appears in the headline. So if you are going to say the Flamingo Bridge from the Formula One race had a multi-million-dollar impact on my business, you may get some attention. Oh, Formula One related news and a negative. Oh, that's going to get some readership. Let's get that clickable headline going. I'm alleging that. It may be that they're very interested in small business at our local media outlets because they don't cover them otherwise. We do have the technology to capture economic impact data at essentially real-time rates. You could have businesses, if they desired, reporting on visitors through the door, on daily sales. This is not necessarily information that you would want to share publicly, but in the right sort of privacy-enabled way to be able to assess economic impact. Maybe not real time, but maybe weekly, monthly. Weekly would probably be ideal because events tend to last for some or all of a week. So if you could actually show that a particular location, not zip code, but city block or actual storefront, actual address, like, oh, there's a trend here. I don't know if you remember this, we had this pandemic a couple of years ago. Even then, they were being very grossly inaccurate with time series data reporting, but there was a general realization that you could look at data based on city or zip code, and you could plot it on a map. We do the same thing. We could see where during construction for a Formula One race, or tearing up a street for a bridge that lasts several months, major detours, maybe even a bus strike. The RTC driver strike may be coming as I'm speaking today on the 26th of January, 2024. So the ability to actually measure, much like a stock market, any marketplace that has price fluctuations benefits, especially to those in the market, by having that data available. So we could certainly capture and use that. If only there was an Innovate for Vegas Foundation that I'm the managing director of that could possibly create an open data capture platform project, but then have people actually work on it. That's the challenge. The joy of civic volunteerism. The local press in the Las Vegas area, the greater Vegas area, could pay more attention to small businesses and our overall economy as it relates to startups and small businesses. If we are to be the most entrepreneurial state in the country, and if Southern Nevada is to be on that list of places that is so awesome for entrepreneurs, we should be able to share information so that people can see what's happening. If I'm an entrepreneur and I want to know how my fellow entrepreneurs are doing, especially if they're geographically local to me, or if they're in similar business sectors, or if they engage similar types of customers, and if they benefit or don't from tourists, visitors, convention attendees, etc., that would be great. And it seems unlikely, unless you're building a stadium or committing a crime, or if you're a politician. Those all might be the same thing. Unless you're one of those, or unless you're doing something particularly shiny, you're not really going to get much mention. And if you do, you have to make a lot of noise. There has to be millions of dollars at stake, and you have to mention the A's, the Raiders, Formula One, Fontainebleau, etc. So those headlines get some coverage. Adding new tools to bolster coverage of that so that more people know what's happening in a more transparent way could be on the table. The 2.3 million people that live in Clark County could have a better idea what's happening rather than the legacy style of reporting news. If you only report news as headlines and the inverted pyramid story, who, what, when, where, why, how, and why. No, wow. Who, what, when, where, why, how, and then the wow is what gets you readers and clicks, and that's where things have gone now. But if you focus on that sort of reporting and you see a headline that says Formula One, $20 million, small business, okay, I might read that. But what then? I don't remember the number off the top of my head. I've said it in previous episodes. I want to say it's like over 100,000 small business licenses in the Clark County area, in the greater Vegas area. And I could be wildly off. That data is published in the open data datasets in the GeoCommons for the city of Las Vegas. They've captured data for well beyond the administrative boundaries of the city, so those numbers are generally available and reasonably current. So there's tons and tons of small businesses, and each of those business licenses has a mark, a pin, a place mark, if you're a GIS person, or a KML person, really. On a map, you can see where businesses are, where they're distributed, how they're distributed, and so on. So you could actually overlay a construction map for a particular project, like the Formula One racetrack or the Super Bowl, or bridges being destroyed, or other roadways being altered, and so on and so on. You could actually measure the impact on businesses proximal and distal to these projects, and we have the data. We have the starting point of this. So we need to actually focus on capturing the data. Then you can analyze it. And when we speak of Virtual Vegas as one of our projects over there at the Innovate for Vegas Foundation, it is not, shiny graphics and 3D, and I can put my, overpriced VR glasses on and walk through Vegas. And what we're really talking about is being able to visualize the impact of different decisions on business and people and traffic flow and so on. So understanding how our economy works, especially if you are a impresario, if you're an entrepreneur, a small business owner, if you are trying to start something, or if you're trying to keep something going, if all the attention goes to the big headlines, the big resorts, the big money, you have your work cut out for you. And that is an interesting problem. And that is where I will leave it today. Don't forget, buymeacoffee.com/DanHugo, where I list my various audio programs. We have some expansion plans for 2024. So hopefully things like live streaming and actual interviews with actual people might make a comeback and so on. So I didn't live stream before. So hopefully we'll have live stream and interviews and we can actually interact with people. It is the new trendy thing. So more places to get our audio programming, and most importantly, self-hosting our audio programs so that we can have links and other details that go into these weekly episodes and more, all to hopefully draw a better picture of what is going on. If you are an entrepreneur, if you want to start a business, if you want to do something creative and innovative, there must be a way to communicate in both directions about the nature and state of our entrepreneurial innovation ecosystem. That's where I'll leave it today. Thanks for listening. Thanks for checking out the links, or most importantly, keep an eye on caffegenius.org. That's CAFFEGENIUS.org. caffegenius.org. It's just a project, not a company, to look at in a very detailed way our entrepreneurial innovation ecosystem so that we can better understand it and make it better. That's where I'll leave it today. Thank you so much for listening. Bye-bye.